unbelievable stuff, historic stuff. They're all gone, and here we are. We're not stopping. I don't think we have a choice.
What made you go from tech to making the case for Israel?
So I found myself on October 7th realizing that I have a very unique platform and a unique position, that I have the ear of the tech world, right? The tech world's predominantly left-leaning / anti-Israel, and, they don't really listen to quote-unquote Hasbara folks, but they know me as a colleague because I built that trust over the last 15 years, and so I realized I have to use that platform and leverage what I've built. And so I've been doing that since October 7th, focusing on, fighting the blood libels, the lies against Israel that come from many of my colleagues, which begs the question, how are people this smart so dumb when it comes to the Jews?
It's interesting. You talk a lot about Israel as a tech superpower. Has this war transformed Israel?
So when I do talks, I call the title of my talk is From Tech to Tanks, right? We haven't stopped being a tech superpower. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we read in the Torah that the Israelites in Egypt, the more the Egyptians persecuted them, the stronger they got, which doesn't make any sense, but that's our story. And we're seeing that even today in 2024, where, we had this existential war. The tech ecosystem's continuing to grow. We broke records in M&A, mergers and acquisitions. We broke records in fundraising. We're not stopping. That being said, we've kind of reallocated a lot of resources. Half the country's in reserve. So, we're balancing that tech, tanks, got to do what we got to do. That's our story.
We've been very successful in this war, thanks to God. We smashed Hamas, we dismantled Hezbollah, and we even withstood attacks from Iran with hundreds of ballistic missiles. Donald Trump is talking about building an Iron Dome in America. Are other countries looking at Israel saying, we need to be like that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think he signed the executive order for an American Iron Dome. I mean, that's just an interesting concept. Who are they protecting from? Who's shooting rockets into America? But then again, we don't know, what will happen tomorrow. This world, things happen so fast. But yeah, I think like many areas, Israel is a light unto the nations, right? And I think even the United States of America is looking at Israel and this Iron Dome, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the modern day clouds of glory. I mean, these are miracles. Dr. Danny Gold, who invented it, told me personally that no one thought it was possible. So this Iron Dome thing, we take it for granted, but it is a technological wonder.
You've been very involved personally with what's happening right now in Gaza. Your brother, who was a hero, was murdered by a Palestinian terrorist, and he's on the list of people to be released in order to get some of our hostages home. What do you think about this deal that's just being decided now, and where do you think this leads to?
First of all, I want to be accurate. This kid, I call him a kid, who murdered my brother was 16 years old. He wasn't a Hamas terrorist. He was just a random, quote-unquote, normal Palestinian, right? It's just important that we understand the level of indoctrination. But, when I heard that my brother's terrorist was on that list, it was definitely a punch to the gut. But, that doesn't change my opinion on the deal. And I think the deal is both terrible and beautiful, right? It's terrible, obviously, releasing 1,000 monsters. I mean, that in no world, in no universe is that a good thing. But also these poor hostages and their families. I mean, we have to know that if something happens to an Israeli citizen, that Israel's going to do whatever it can to get that person back. And so we have to do what we have to do, and it's a very steep price. But I don't think we have a choice. I just hope that Israel kind of learned and will implement the lessons of October 7th and won't let those people that we're now releasing return to terrorizing Israel. But there's no question they're going to try. I hope we manage to stop them.
People talk about what's the future hold. President Trump came out with a bold plan. Let's get the Gazans to Egypt and Jordan. Could that be a solution? If not, what do you think is going to happen in the next few months and years?
First of all, you can't help but laugh. I mean, how many, Israeli leaders over the last 50 years have suggested transfer, as we call it, right? Taking the Palestinians, incentivizing them to leave, right? All of a sudden, Donald Trump says it, and it's like, all right, let's do this, right? I mean, this is something that many ministers in Israel have suggested a million times. But, if anybody could do that, it's Donald Trump, right? I do hope it happens, not only because, of our selfish reasons, but also for them, right? This is a people that is so deeply, heavily indoctrinated. It's a society that's rotten to the core. And we need an out-of-the-box solution here. And so the thought of, relocating them to a place where they can live in peace and without that heavy radical Islam indoctrination, I think is a win-win for everyone. So I hope it happens. But either way, I mean, I think that there's no doubt that Israel will win this war and will remove all threats from its borders. We don't have a choice.
Everyone's talking about President Trump and that Israel and America are back together again, and it's going to be an exciting time. People are predicting incredible success, investment, prosperity, peace. Do you see this happening on the ground?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the Abraham Accords, this is like, we all recognize that it's amazing, but we don't really understand how amazing it is. This is literally peace in the Middle East, right? And so there is precedent, right? We have Jordan, we have Egypt, we have Abraham Accords, there is precedent. And so I do believe that, one day there will be peace in the Middle East, not with the people who call themselves Palestinians today. because again, heavily indoctrinated. You can't even talk to them about peace. But I think in the long run, I think that there will be peace eventually, and I think Donald Trump will play a significant role in that. And we're seeing the Trump effect. Even before he entered office, we see the Trump effect. Hezbollah like getting on their knees, all of a sudden asking for this peace treaty, this ceasefire, which they would never have agreed with just a few months before. Hamas, same story. So the Trump effect is already something we see before he entered office. Now that he's in office, we see what he's doing. I mean, the executive orders that he's signed, unbelievable stuff, historic stuff.
What message do you have for our viewing audience?
The words Am Yisrael Chai, we've all heard those words, but people kind of think of them as like a nice phrase, maybe a nice song. They're not just an empty phrase. Am Yisrael Chai is a historical reality. And if you don't believe me, think about how many Babylonians you know, right? All of those empires who came after us, they're all gone, and here we are. So we celebrate Purim, we celebrate Hanukkah, we celebrate Passover. At the time, those were difficult times. Today, we're celebrating. The same will happen with Simchat Torah, the holiday on which October 7th happened. We will dance again.